All right, good morning. My name is Jordan Wilkowski. I'm the PrecisionPac product manager here with FMC. Welcome everyone to the webinar this cold morning. Today we're going to be sharing the new PrecisionPac blend, which we have available this year, PF-100-0050. This training session for this new blend will be led by our technical sales manager, Deanna McLennan. And we also have our TSM, Rachel Evans, on the line as well to help answer any questions you might have. After that, we'll move into some operational training where we'll have our subject matter expert, Kevin Gilbert, presenting on our PrecisionPac 1.0 technology. And then our technology manager, John Schlocke, will be presenting on our 3.0 technology. Then we'll hear from our technical service representative, Sophie Bunting, on PrecisionPac best practices and some housekeeping items. And then I will wrap it up at the end with some PrecisionPac 4.1 ordering process. And then we'll take some questions after that. I do ask that if you have questions, just please enter your question into the chat, and we will either try answer them in the chat, or at the end of the session, we'll address any questions that are there. So with that, I will now turn it over to Deanna to take us through the new blend.
Thank you, Jordan. So for the agronomic background section, I'll start with a bit of a review on the characteristics of both active ingredients in PF-100-50. Those are peroxysulfone and tribenuron. Then I'll walk through the label for the PF-100-50 label. And then I'll finish with some herbicide layering pieces on specifically for wild oats and how PF-100-50 can be part of that. So here is the lineup FMC has for active ingredients for our PPAC systems for 2025. Some of the newer actives we have available are carfentrazone and sulfentrazone. So with those additions, we are able to offer a few additional burn-off blends with CF alone and in combination with our SU burn-offs, as well as we were able to launch sulfentrazone solo as an extended weed control active, but also paired with some of our burn-off blends and some of these complete solutions offerings that we have. So now with the addition of dry peroxysulfone, we have one new complete solutions blend for 2025. So again, that's PF-100-0050. And just to review how the naming for this blend works is the prefix here. So PF indicates that this blend is primarily peroxysulfone. And then the 100 here indicates that this is the higher rate. So this is similar to the naming systems for the SZ herbicide as well as CS, with the lower rate with the 75 naming, and then the higher rate is named 100. And the 0050 here indicates that this has straight tribenuron, same as the NC0050. And just before I get further into this blend, PF-100 will be registered for pre-seed use for spring and winter wheat in 2025. So starting off with some background on peroxysulfone. Peroxysulfone is the active ingredient for the extended control for PF-100-50. Sorry about that. It is available in other packaged goods with FMC, like Focus and Authority Supreme, but it's also available in some other, I guess, third-party, like external companies with Zidua, Vraxer Complete, and Fierce. So peroxysulfone is a group 15 mode of action. So these are very long-chain fatty acid inhibitors. So these work by preventing the development of very long-chain fatty acids that are required for early developments for roots and shoots. So any affected seedlings are still able to germinate, but their early growth is inhibited. So peroxysulfone does have pretty broad spectrum activity. It has activity on both grasses and small seeded broadleaf weeds. And some of the strengths of pyroxasulfone would be wild oats, but also other grasses like green foxtail and the brome species. And looking at broadleaf weeds, it has pretty strong activity on redroot pigweed and cleavers, as well as wild buckwheat. And what to expect for symptomology with pyroxasulfone. When we're thinking about wild oats, it can be a little bit harder to see the injury up close. We do have to scrape back the soil to find these. But if you're looking at the soil surface, you can see the desiccated shoots sticking out. But when that is scraped back, you can see the crinkled and twisted and stunted seedling down below. So for scouting, we do need to get digging in the dirt a little bit to see the symptomology. So pyroxasulfone is applied to the soil surface. And one nice feature is it can sit and wait on the soil surface. It won't break down with sunlight and it won't volatilize. That active will stay until we get an activating rainfall. So typically we would want to see about ½ an inch of moisture, so either rainfall or irrigation, at once to activate it. So once the pyroxasulfone is activated, it will move down into the soil solution where it will be available for uptake for any weeds. The weeds could get a dose of the pyroxasulfone through the soil water when they first imbibe and crack open, or if they germinate slightly above where that herbicide layer is in the soil, they'll grow through and their roots will take it up as they're moving down in the soil. So this little diagram does really demonstrate how critical of a role moisture is playing with the movement of pyroxasulfone in the soil. So we do need that initial activating rainfall to move the product down and solubilize it, but we also still need rainfall throughout the season to keep the active in the soil moisture where it's available for uptake. I guess most of the time, any big rainfalls we get do typically coincide with later flushes, so it normally works out pretty well. So how much pyroxasulfone is available for plants to uptake from the soil solution is influenced by soil characteristics. So this does include organic matter and pH. This was some work done from the University of Saskatchewan. So it's pretty local and pretty relevant to our soils in Western Canada, but it's showing how pyroxasulfone is affected by organic matter and pH. So on the y-axis here, we have the amount of pyroxasulfone needed for a 50% reduction in the length of a sugar beet root. And they used sugar beets because it's a pretty sensitive species to pyroxasulfone. And we can see with organic matter, when we're on the lower organic matter soils, so like 2 to 3%, we need about 80, I guess, or 80 micromoles, I think, of pyroxasulfone to see that reduction in the root length. However, as we move onto the heavier organic matter soils, we need a higher rate of pyroxasulfone to overcome that. And that is because pyroxasulfone binds to organic matter as well as clay in the soil. So as we move and transition to these heavier soil types, we need a higher rate to overcome that binding potential that that soil has. So when we think about the label of some of our extended weed control products like Authority Supreme and Focus, that is broken down, or the label is structured based on organic matter. So when you're moving on to heavier soils, you do need to move to a heavier rate of the product. And looking at pH, on our lower pH soils, we need more product, pyroxasulfone. And then when we move to higher pH soils, the pyroxasulfone is more available in the soil, so less product is needed. And the molecule of pyroxasulfone is not changing. It's the external environment that is changing how available the product is in the soils. So when we move to soils of a pH of about 7.8 or higher, that product is much more available in the soil solution. And that is why some of our label restrictions are written the way that they are, with not recommending application on soils of a pH of 7.8 or higher. And I just wanted to kind of review the level of control we can expect on various grass weeds. And this was all internal work that was done by FMC in Western Canada over the last number of years. And this is looking at the level of control with peroxysulfone on different grass weeds. So with wild oats, that is one of our main driver weeds with this product. We are rated for suppression with this weed. It's a bit of a larger seed size, so it does need to take in a little bit of extra product. But we do have a number of secondary grasses on the label as well. Green foxtail and barnyard grass. We see, I guess, pretty good levels of control with these two species, which is nice because these aren't always the first grasses up in the spring. So it's good to have a product with flushing control to take these out, I guess, when we get later in the season when these C4 grasses start to emerge. And then we're also labeled for some of these winter annual species like the bromes and foxtail barley. So a good tool to manage these, especially with some, I guess, recent work around the group 1 resistant foxtail barley that's popping up in areas of Alberta. And then looking at the grass weeds that we have activity on with peroxysulfone, we do see good activity on a number of the grass weeds that pop up in the black soil zone. So that includes redroot pigweed, cleavers, and stinkweed. And these are also some of the species where we're starting to see more resistance pop up as well. And then looking at the species that we have suppression with, kochia is a big one, especially if we look at applying PF-100 in those darker soil zones where kochia is starting to migrate into. It is nice to have a product that does have some activity on kochia that is still able to work with the species that we have up in the north, like cleavers and wild oats. And we're also rated for suppression for lamb's quarters and wild buckwheat as well. So altogether, peroxysulfone does have a pretty wide spectrum of activity on various weeds. And then tribeneuron. This is the active ingredient that is the burn-off component in PF-100-50. It really doesn't need much of an introduction, but this is a group 2 mode of action, so an ALS inhibitor, and it is in the sulfonylurea family. So the group 2s, or tribeneuron, is very systemic. It is taken up by the foliage, and it is able to be transported throughout the plant, so up in the stem as well as down into the root system. And because of its highly systemic nature, it does have really good control on our winter annual, biennial, and perennial species, because it does have that ability to travel down into the root system. And some of the strengths when we think of tribeneuron would include dandelion, suppression of Canada thistle, nearleaf hawksbeard, volunteer canola, and scentless chamomile. So a pretty good spectrum of any of those biennial, perennial weeds that could be out there. And just a visual of how this works. Again, it is taken up through the above ground foliage of the plant. And if we are applying this product to perennials in the early spring, we do just want to be mindful that these plants have kind of woken up for the spring and are actively growing at the time. And then we can see here, tribeneuron does move throughout the phloem of the plant. So it's moving wherever those nutrients are going. So depending on the time of year, it could be traveling down into the root system in the fall, or mainly above ground up in the spring. And then again, that ability to move throughout the plant does lead to a more complete kill and less of a chance of regrowth following application. So those were a bit of background on the 2 actives in PF-100-50, and now I'll just go through with the label and what, I guess, all of those different all of the label information for PF-100-50. So we are labeled for spring wheat and durum wheat. Because we have peroxysulfone in this blend, we can't have any application ahead of durum wheat. For the application timing, we are looking at minimum 24 hours prior to seeding, and that is because we have Express or tribenuron in this blend. So that is how that product is labeled. Since we do have the higher rate of peroxysulfone and PF-100-50, we are looking to apply this only to soils with greater than 3% organic matter, and again, a pH of less than 7.8. We do have some tank mix partners available. If we are looking to, take down some broadleaf weeds in a field, CF herbicide or AIM, so carbendazole, can be added. That's a registered tank mix. And since we have Express in this blend, PF-100-50 must be applied with glyphosate. And looking at recropping, so immediately after application, we can seed spring or winter wheat. And then 12 months following application, these are the crops that we currently have on the label. So chickpea, field pea, flax, lentils would be some of the main ones. But we do have a submission that is currently in with the PMRA to add on some of the, crops that are missing from the recropping label. So that would be barley, canola, mustard, oats, and durum. And we expect to have those crops added to the label in the late summer. And just looking at a snapshot of what weeds we have on the label. So for extended control, we have, again, wild oats, suppression for those, which would be one of the main weeds. But we also have other grasses, including the foxtails, as well as the brome species. And for broadleaf weeds, we have fewer on the label currently. There is a submission going through to add on some of the missing weeds, like suppression of kochia and wild buckwheat. But right now on the label, we have cleavers and lamb's quarters. But later this summer, some of the weeds that are on the focus label should get added onto this label as well. And looking at the burn-off control, so what the Express is bringing to the table, we do have nice activity on many of those weeds, those like winter annuals or perennial weeds that could be popping up early in the spring. So that would include nearleaf hawksbeard and dandelion, as well as suppression of Canada thistle. But we also have some, annual weeds that could be popping up, like volunteer canola or lamb's quarters. And we do have the flexibility to add AIM in as well if we're looking for improved control on anything like kochia out there. And just to review some of the best application practices with this new blend, again, we're looking for a pre-plant timing only with PF-100-50. We don't have that flexibility for the post-seed application with the Express in the tank. And with all of our extended weed control products, we're looking to apply these after any harrowing or tillage has been done. We want these to be applied to the soil surface and not disturbed after, so that they're in a nice layer consistently across the field. Again, since we have Express, we are wanting to apply this with glyphosate. And for the peroxysulfone, we are wanting to apply this with lots of water, so 10 gallons per acre. Again, just to make sure we have a good consistent layer across the soil surface. We are restricted to one application per 12-month period. So just be mindful of any of the other brands like Veraxor Complete or Fierce that could be applied as well. And again, since this is the heavy rate of peroxysulfone, is equal to the 33-acre jug of focus, we're wanting to apply this to fields with organic matter of 3 or greater. And I just wanted to touch on some factors to consider that have an impact on where the herbicide layer can form in the soil surface versus where the weed seeds could be germinating. So kind of thinking about where these are spatially in the soil profile. So in an ideal world, we would want all the weed seeds close and concentrated to the soil surface, germinating within that layer or just slightly above. But in a less than ideal world, we might have some of those weed seeds buried a little bit deeper and a little bit of a smaller herbicide layer. So I just want to go through some of the characteristics and things to consider that can have an impact on this. So herbicide characteristics would be the rates, as well as some of the other, I guess, characteristics that I didn't touch on, like solubility and absorption of these products. So how likely these are to bind and how easily these go into solution can have an effect on, I guess, how these products are moving in the soil and how much they're able to move. So a product with a lower solubility might not go into solution as easy. It might not form as quite as a thick of a layer in the soil surface. Tillage practices typically move the weed seeds down to the depth of tillage. So any deep tillage can help bury these seeds and move them away from the treated layer, as we can see here. And then soil type, heavier soils or more clay-based soils, we know have greater water holding capacity and also less minimal or less downward movement into the soil. So this could contribute to a more narrow layer in the soil profile as well. And also another thing to consider is the soil moisture prior to application. If we think of a soil that is near its like permanent wilting point, super dry, that soil might take more moisture compared to, I guess, a soil that's closer to like at field capacity. It might need more rainfall or more moisture to help move that product down if it's super dry. So for the most part, we don't have too many issues with where this layer is forming in the soil, and we do see good performance, but just some things to consider when we're thinking about these products. And some visuals here of some efficacy on wild oats and the effective depth that we do see. So we can see some good activity on some of the wild oats that are germinating from more shallow depths here, and some symptoms of this one that may have germinated almost too close to the soil surface. And then here we can see a wild oat that germinated from maybe greater than 3 inches deep in the soil profile. And we can see that this would be an escape. So just kind of an example of what I was illustrating on that last slide about deep tillage and these practices that can help contribute to wild oats being able to germinate from those deeper depths. And just wanted to look at some of the expectations for duration of control when we get onto these heavier soils and more in these wild oat areas. So the time of control would depend on several factors, the rate that's applied, the soil parameters that influence how much will be available. So that includes texture, pH, and organic matter, as well as the environmental conditions. So how much moisture we're getting and how consistent are those rains throughout the season when these products are working. So on the higher organic matter soils and lower pH soils, I guess duration of control could be somewhere around 20 days, maybe slightly above. And then in the, I guess, fields that have lower organic matter, thinking about Focus or Authority Supreme, we would be getting upwards of 30 days of control with that lower rate of peroxysulfone on these lower organic matter soils. And just to reiterate that the wild oat activity is suppression, and it could drop off on higher organic matter soils. Again, activity can be improved on minimum tillage soils where the wild oats are more shallow in the soil profile. And just a bit of a reminder, this is something I'm sure everyone on the call has been working to manage for years, but thinking about wild oat resistance. So these are the last published numbers, but they are still getting pretty out of date. So I'm sure that these numbers are higher than what they were a handful of years ago. So in general, we know that about 62% of wild oats are resistant to group 1s and 34% are resistant to group 2s. But altogether, that means about 69% of fields in Western Canada would have a resistant wild oat of some sort. But again, this number is probably a lot lower than what we currently have out there in the field. I'm sure if you've been doing any testing, you've been finding that most fields probably do have a group 1 or group 2 resistant wild oat. So just wanted to reiterate the importance of implementing other strategies for management besides relying on group 1s and group 2s. So from a herbicide perspective, the group 15s can be a good tool just to help have that pre-flushing control to help reduce the populations. And that can allow our in-crop products to work better and help to reduce seed set as well. So just to walk through what I guess one of the herbicide layering scenarios could look like with PF-100-0050. And in this scenario, we were targeting wild oats and cleavers as the 2 driver weeds, thinking about the northern geographies, but also wanting to implement some strategies to manage kochia, since kochia does seem to be creeping up into those fields more and more every year. So to begin with PF-100-50, so the peroxysulfone in this does have extended control or activity on all 3 weeds with suppression of wild oats and kochia and labeled for control of cleavers. The group 2 in the tank would have activity on cleavers as well. And then glyphosate would have activity on the wild oats as well as the cleavers and potentially the kochia depending on resistance. And then having the group 2 at burn-off timing does still have a benefit for any of those perennial or winter annual weeds that are up early in the season. For the in-crop treatment, we went with CS150, so the high rate of pyroxalam paired with 2525, as well with perimeter. So at the in-crop timing, the group 2 is acting on the wild oats, with the group 4 acting on the cleavers and kochia for the in-crop timing. And then we added in a pre-harvest with AIM for, I guess, harvest aid control for any weed burn down. So that group 14 would have activity on both the cleavers as well as the kochia. So we just wanted to demonstrate how PF could be paired with our other in-crop actives to have multiple, I guess, herbicide layering touch points on all of these weed species. And I am almost at my last slide here, but just wanted to touch on the amount of peroxysulfone available in the products. So when FMC was developing Focus, they did do the work to register a higher rate of peroxysulfone since they found it was the agronomically right rate that was needed, especially when we're getting on heavier organic better soils, and that we might need more peroxysulfone to overcome that binding potential. So just to demonstrate with, I guess, peroxysulfone or PF-100-50 and Focus, we have that higher rate of 150 grams active. So when we compare it to something like Virex or Complete, we're getting about 20% more peroxysulfone than some of these other brands. Of course, it's not an apples-to-apple comparison since Virex and Virex or Complete do have other active ingredients in them that are offering different activity on other weeds. I just wanted to point that out there, as well as the price, I guess, of PF-100-50 when we're thinking about something like Focus. So just thinking about the weed spectrums out there and what you're looking for burn off this spring. And just to run through some of the best application practices with our PPAC products. So most importantly, we're looking to have the 50 mesh screens for all of our filters and nozzle points throughout the system. We just need that 50 mesh for the clay-based carriers that these products are on. If using cold water in the spring, we do need more time to agitate, anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. We can't hurt these products in the tank, so we can agitate pretty aggressively here. And then, yeah, once those products are fully dissolved and fully in solution, we can add in the rest of the tank mix partners if desired. So with that, I will pass it on to Kevin.
Hi, my name is Kevin Gilbert, and I'm gonna give you just a little bit of training on the PrecisionPac, which we lovingly call the 1.0 machine, which is our first machine that was in the field. And do I change the slides here? How do I do that? There. Okay, sorry.
I'm on it.
Okay, good. So basically, very user friendly. So after logging in, press enter to proceed to the dispense. And then you locate the correct label bag for what product you're dispensing. Very important is to open the bag completely. Um, it could overflow otherwise. And so ensure the RFID tag, which is on the bottom of the bag, is facing the reader. Insert the bag into the hanger and ensure that the bag's pushed all the way back. There's a little contact switch at the back that needs to be activated just to ensure the bag is in the right place. And if you have the features enabled of enter the job number and grower name, then you would proceed to do that. If you don't, it'll just take you on to the next screen, which is where you'd put your acres and press start to continue your dispense. And some of the issues that happen during the dispense is the bag overflows, and that's to make sure that it's open properly. The rotating valve becomes misaligned. The grower bag is not recognized by the reader, or you get a no change in weight error on the screen, or a bag is not in place on the screen. If the bag is overflowing, it's because it's not open properly. And you look at that bag on the left there, there's a gusset at the bottom. You should make sure you pull that gusset all the way apart before putting the bag in, and that'll mitigate any kind of spillage caused by the product backing up into the bag. So always open it prior to inserting it into the machine. You may get an error that says rotating valve misaligned, which can be caused by a few different things. If it does become misaligned, the controller will tell you magnet misaligned, press clear to retry. There's a little optical sensor on top of that, between that wheel, and that ensures that the position of the product you're dispensing and the opening of the valve is in the correct place while it's being dispensed. So there's several reasons why the error can occur. The wiring harness or magnets have become loose on the pipe manifold. There's a little set screw that holds the rotating valve to that stepper motor, and that has come loose or has shifted. The stepper motor may have failed, or there's a little board inside the machine that tells the stepper motor where to go, and that may have malfunctioned. If it does show up, the one on the left there, you see the two slots, one on the white housing and the slot on the rotating valve, the silver metal piece there. In the home position, which is position 1, those have to be lined up. So prior to any dispense that happens, it returns to that home position, and those must be lined up in order for it to proceed. So if that message appears on your screen, a couple things is to press a clear button. Usually that'll fix the problem and it'll pull it back into alignment. If that doesn't work, powering the machine off. I know that's an old saying for a computer, but it does work. If you power it off and power it back on again, it'll send a command to the stepper motor, and that'll usually fix the issue. If it doesn't work, just call our tech support and we'll get a technician out right away to fix your problem. If you get in the area where the grower bag's not recognized by the reader, that can be a couple of different things. The RFID tag on the bag might be corrupted. If that happens, try a different bag. The RFID tag may be too far away from the reader. The reader is on the left there if you look on the picture on the right. So make sure that tag is facing the reader when you put the bag in. The RFID reader may have become unplugged, or the reader has malfunctioned. So when inserting the bag, just make sure it's close to the reader and it's pushed all the way to the back of the machine. There it is. RFID reader is not reading the bag. What you want to look on the reader, if you see that green light, and if you have a bag, just kind of wave it in front of that reader and it should turn red and then green again. If it doesn't, or you're not getting that light, just make sure that that reader is plugged in. There's a USB cable, one that plugs into the reader and the other end plugs into the back of the controller box on the machine. If it has come unplugged, you will have to plug it back in and then restart the machine. The machine will have to be rebooted so it'll reinitialize the USB port on the controller, and then the reader should function again. If it doesn't, again, call our tech support and we'll get somebody out there. We can bypass a reader to keep it going until we get a technician there. So that is a possibility as well. If you get a no change in weight while it's dispensing, a couple of reasons. You may have run out of inventory. So look up the top, make sure you got product in, if you have a tote, in the snorkel or in the or FRC bag that you have in front. Make sure the handle on that valve is open. There could be a clump in the valve preventing the product from flowing, or the dispensing valve has failed. Next, please. So make sure you see the product. If there is product in the valve handle, opening and closing that valve handle could clear whatever is blocking it. So give that a shot. If you see no product in the FRC or snorkel, don't cancel the dispense. It's possible to update the inventory during a dispense if required. Next, please. The screen will say no change in weight, so press 2 to update your inventory. The update inventory screen, choose the product you're updating. Remove the reader from the machine and scan the RFID product tag on the product you're updating. Inventory will update and return you to the no change in weight screen. And make sure you put the reader back inside the machine, and then open the valve for the product and press 3 and the product will start to flow, and it'll dispense will continue and you'll have a successful dispense. Bag not in place. If the screen appears before the dispense says a bag is not in place, you see that little switch on the right. The bag has to activate that switch. So when the bag is inserted, make sure it's all the way back in the bag hanger. It must activate that switch. If the bag is not in place, the error will appear. That's on the left there. If the error persists, call our 1-833-362 PPAC. The switch can be bypassed to keep the machine running until we get a technician there. If you need to reprint a ticket, there's a couple of ways you can do it. Press the setup key on a controller, and if you have a wireless keyboard, press where it says setup there. If you don't have a wireless keyboard on your machine, give us a call and we'll make sure that you get one. It's a lot better to use than the little controller buttons there. Using the down arrows on the controller or the wireless keyboard, scroll to the dealer mode and enter your PIN code to open that dealer mode. Use the down arrows on the controller or the keyboard and press enter to reprint a grower bag when you get to that screen. You'll have 2 options to reprint a ticket. If you know the batch number of the one that you want, just simply enter it in there and it'll duplicate ticket, will print. If you don't know the batch number, you can scan the RFID tag on the bag that you need to duplicate the ticket for, and it will duplicate a ticket from that actual dispense that happened. Next. And good practices, try to keep your machine clean. The dust can cause some problems, especially with the rotating valve. If it gets dirty in there, it'll drag it and it'll make it miss a line. Never remove the dispensers from the machine until the ticket starts to print. Don't scan in multiple refills. Don't move your machine. If you want to place somewhere else, give us a call because a technician will have to be dispatched. If the machine is moved, we'll have to get the scale recertified. Be gentle with the machine. Lots of moving parts and sensors that can be damaged. And that's all I have. So, any questions? Ask at the end, and we'll try and answer them for you.
Thanks, Kevin. My name is John Schlocke, and I'm going to go through the 3.0. I'm going to start out with how to operate the machine, and then we'll talk about some common issues and some general error bags that we want to obviously avoid as much as possible. So how do you do a dispense on a 3.0, right? You're going to locate your correct product bag, obviously in your retail location. You're going to open that bag up completely, like Kevin mentioned. Fortunately, the 3.0s have a bag blower, makes it a lot easier. You're going to open up the slide out drawer. Again, you're going to make sure that the RFID is facing the back of the machine where the reader is located. You'll slide that bag into the bag hanger, making sure that it's at the back of the drawer hanger and meeting the proximity switch. You'll close the slide out drawer. You'll enter all the details, including acres and drawer name and job number if so desired, and then you'll select start dispense. Next slide. So what's really neat about the 3.0 is that does give you a nice audible alarm when everything's confirmed. So if you've actually placed the bag into the correct location and so forth, you're going to hear an audible sound, a little beep, and that tells you that you can now close the slide out drawer. So it's telling you that everything's in position, it's read the RFID reader, and so forth. And then when you close the drawer, hopefully you'll also get the drawer switch contact made. And you get 3 indicators at the bottom of the dispense screen. Basically the switch for S, for the grower switch, R for the reader, and the drawer switch. So if all 3 lights are green, that would allow you to engage the start dispense button. Next slide. So let's talk about some general issues. So first one, obviously, is network. We have lots of network connection issues. We continue to try to make it better and better every year. And 3.0 is to continue to try to use modern internet type technology. We do use industrial connections to do data telemetry for real-time dispense reports and obviously collecting our error dispenses. There is a little icon at the top of the main screen, a little globe that should indicate whether you have a good connection. So gray is good. Other colors indicate that we have some sort of connection issue. There is a modem on our new machines. Don't have this physical modem that's sort of installed close to the machine, but the bulk of our assets do have some sort of ZT or some sort of hub that's located close by. Sometimes it's unplugged, so make sure it's always plugged in and powered up. Next slide. One of the things that we do get calls from time to time throughout the year, obviously when we're positioning snorkels or FRCs, sometimes it will feel like that valve handle is stuck and it's sort of hard to sort of slide from the closed to the open position or vice versa. And that's sometimes just a misalignment between the snorkel and the actual FRC. So don't never try to force that valve handle. Really just gently move that FRC sort of back and forth to the upright position, same with the snorkel. And you'll find if you're moving that, sort of sliding it back and forth, you'll find that if you grab the valve handle at the same time, you'll find that it should be able to go from the closed to the open position. Next slide. If there's no power on the machine, there's a couple things to check for. We do have a UPS that should have some limited battery backup. Sometimes those batteries over time do get depleted. But again, the first thing to check for is the UPS. Make sure that there's actually a green light. So that's that first sort of picture on the left. There is a little green light. Make sure it's on. If not, you'll need to press that power switch on the UPS. The next one is at the back of the machine. There is obviously an extension cord that's plugged in at the back to obviously your outlet. Just make sure that's seated in properly. And then on the third sort of display there is basically a toggle switch for the electrical panel. Probably it's normally going to always be in the on position, but for whatever reason, if it was turned off, you'll need to make sure that's in the on position. And again, obviously, if you were to open up an electrical panel and you saw lights, that would give you an indication that there's actually power in the machine. Okay, next slide. Kevin sort of touched upon this. It acts very similar to the 1.0. If the material is not flowing out of a PPAC valve, you will get a sort of red flashing icon over that position. It'll flash sort of pulse sort of on and off. And that's indicating that basically it sort of detects no flow. It could be just that you've ran out of inventory, right? So you're going to have to change out the FRC or tote. It might be that you just changed out an FRC or tote and you forgot to open the shutoff valve. Or there could be, like Kevin mentioned, there could be a clump in the valve. And we do automatically pulse the valve 3 times to see if, that would sort of loosen up any material. If that doesn't work, obviously, and it's not running out of inventory or you haven't shut off the valve, obviously we'll have to call a tech to come out and visit. Next slide. We do get this question from time to time. The inventory seems to be out from what the machine is indicating. I just want to make certain that you don't get charged for any material that doesn't end up in your customer's hands. So that's part of our data reconciliation process. But if you do sense that the inventory is out, obviously it could be there's a spillage inside the machine, or there could have been basically a manual update or a manual inventory update sometime throughout the season. There's a variety of reasons that the inventory should be normal of 2 or 3%, but again, you're not getting charged for any material that doesn't end up in your customer's hands. Next slide. We do have electronic fuses, which is a nice thing in the 3.0, which means there's no real physical fuses to deal with. Obviously, they're there to handle obviously shorts or surges and so forth. Sometimes we get calls on the hotline to deal with this alarm. This is general power distribution fault. We can try to reset the overall fuse block from afar. We might ask you to maybe press one of those electronic fuses if they're flashing red or orange. Typically, if they've gone off, the short is there, and most likely we're probably going to have to send a tech out to deal with the short that's obviously on the machine. Next slide. Here's some common error bags. So the first one is error number 16, and that's to do with dispense complete with an underweight condition. We used to have that a lot, obviously, without the bag blower, but with the introduction of the bag blower being fluffed open and so forth, that's really eliminated this error tremendously. But again, make sure you use that bag blower. Obviously, all the product will get in the bag and doesn't back up into the funnel or obviously spill, right? So could be other issues, obviously, in terms of our load cells. As everyone knows, our load cells are calibrated and certified, and they're checked regularly as well. Next slide. So another error code, a very common one, is 1001. We're not, this is probably certainly a nuisance, but we certainly, in the 3.0, we recover as much product as possible. And so this is to do with the ability to do a partial reject. So if we over dispense on any single position, we have the unique ability on the 3.0 to actually just reject that little bit of extra weight into the bag and then recover the net contents on the very next bag that you put in. So partial rejects do happen from time to time, and you might only see 30 or 40 grams in a bag. It seems obviously wasteful in a bag, but at the same time, we are recovering the full contents into the next good bag. You do have the ability to change the order to up the acres so that you don't waste any product. Most often, you're not going to use that, and you really just want to do the start reject. You don't want to cancel the dispense here. You want to make sure you do the reject to recover all the contents for the next good bag. Next slide. We do get this one still often where operators are canceling dispenses, and it's error code 1000. Should be really the last resort. If you're stuck on a screen or you're trying to understand what might be happening, please call the hotline, you know, the 1-833 FMC PPAC, or use the Ring device. Ring device, if it's all connected, is good because we actually have a whole team that can answer those Ring calls and hopefully assist you with recovering that bag. Next slide. Another one is the grower bag is removed during the dispense. In the last number of years, we've done quite a bit on the grower hanger to make it more reliable, which I'll discuss later. But if for whatever reason the bag senses that it's not in the proper location through that proximity switch, which is that little orange doohickey there, just make sure that you obviously you're seeing the bag all the way back in the hanger, right? And there's obviously a cam lever to pull that bag, you know, hopefully at the back position. If you find that the bag is not sliding well in that sort of grower hanger, you might want to clean it out with a clean rag or blow some air just to make sure that it's, you know, the bag can freely move into the back position. Next slide. Another common error is the drawer is not in place. So as everyone knows that has a 3.0, when you close the drawer and you hit the start, the drawer assembly is in the locked position. So it's locked, it's magnetically locked, you really can't open up the drawer. And we obviously sense that drawer with a proximity switch at the back of the drawer assembly. If you were to sort of grab the handle before the dispense is complete, and when I say dispense complete, before the printer starts, you potentially can pull the drawer slightly off that proximity switch, and obviously that will air out the dispense, and you might have got a call from us to tell you that that was a good dispense and you can obviously sell that product. So again, the thing is, don't pull on the drawer handle until the printing is started. If you find that you're getting some of these errors and you're not pulling on the drawer, same with the grower hanger, we have the ability to adjust each one of these proximity switches, and obviously would require a tech visit. So if you're getting these errors, you know, 10s or 20s, you know, common, certainly reach out to us and we'll come out and address those issues. Next slide. So here's some features. We talked about the bag blower. Hopefully you're all using it in dryer hands or whatever else. Next slide, please. This is that new hanger, as everyone's seen, obviously to handle the 83 millimeter bags. We have now an 83 millimeter funnel for dispensing even faster. And again, obviously we have no mechanical switches, so a lot more reliable in terms of stuff. Next slide. Other recent developments, we have obviously a six member tote frame. Lots of our obviously retailers have that 6-member tote frame. We do have the ability to Y-split it out of a single tote into 2 positions, which is kind of unique. And we also have this other feature called multi-position single act dispensing, which I'll talk about next. So what is this feature? So this feature, again, some retailers are using this. This is where you've got bulky actives like dicam or sulfentrazone that require a lot of product, right? And use a lot of product at your location. So in order to speed up the rate of dispensing and obviously minimize how much forklift traffic and putting totes on top of tote frames, you do have the ability to actually double or triple or any number of positions on that single active. So you, for instance, dicamba, it could be in 2 or 3 or 4 positions. Again, probably don't ever need it more than beyond 2 positions, but the ability is there. And that's really, again, to speed up the rate of dispensing and to minimize the amount of sort of forklift traffic and so forth at your location. Again, it does require a technician to set up this feature. Realize that once you set that position, it's not like you can swing it back to another active without requiring a tech visit to clean up, you know, all the contamination wetted parts if need be. Okay, next slide. We do have new RFID tags on our bags that have a lot more information on them. It's for us and, you know, hopefully for you. Again, if we have some batch of tags, we're trying to understand what might be happening. There's the 16-digit code is revealed for everyone to sort of digest, to understand, you know, what type of bag it is, what type of product it is, what type of weighted bag it is, and so forth. And it's fitted out with barcodes and QRs, and you'll see hopefully in the not too distant future the use of the QR and what we're going to do with it for you as a customer. Next slide. You do have the ability to reprint tickets. You can only print the last 10 batches. So if you're going to need to reprint a ticket, make sure you get on it before you run a bunch of dispenses. So that's in the dealer mode under transaction history, where you can then select your batch number and then print off that extra ticket. Next slide. So there's also, when you're entering your information, you have some features there, some icons to the right of job number and grower and so forth, where you have some sort of quick action buttons where you choose your favorites, or you can set up favorites, or you can look at your history, so that hopefully you might find it in your favorites or your history, where you don't have to re-enter that information all over again through the keyboard. Okay, next. You do have speakers on your machine. They're obviously there for the training videos, which are obviously not, most people are not obviously requiring to watch them because they know how to operate the machine. But I guess for you as a user, if you're standing next to the machine and you can play your music, there is also on the newer machines a charging port for your phone, so you could charge and play some music while you're dispensing. Next slide. We also have this feature that we added several years back called the Order Manager. It's really the ability to create orders of multiple bags of the same product, acres, and descriptions. You can basically add an order of single bags or group bags. The only difference is that single bags on the printed ticket will say 1 of 1. And if it's a group bag, if you were to group 20 bags, the printed tickets be like 1 of 20, 2 of 20, and so forth. Obviously nice if you're trying to understand where all these bags are on your retail floor. You can always, yeah, that's fine. So how do you, no, that's good. So the sequence is, obviously you're going to select your product. You're going to enter all the information in terms of choosing the product, job number, grower, acres. You would enter the number of bags that you want to complete. There's a button there to toggle between single and grouped or batched. And then once you add that order, it will show up in your order manager, which is the icon next to the sort of create order button, where you can see all the orders that you might have pre-staged to do dispensing for the day or the week. And then you can just select the orders to start dispensing. Next slide. There is some changes that we made last year to the order manager to make it easier for our retailers. And so now basically when you have a grouped order, originally when you had an order of 20 bags, they would be individual items in the order manager. So now they appear as only one line item in your order manager, and they'll be premised with a G or an S, for G for grouped and S for single bags. It will tell you the number of bags that are in that order, and obviously the product and the acres and so forth. And it's not, the order manager is not a requirement. You can simply place a bag in the machine and create your order or whatever else and dispense a product. And next slide. And if you need to get rid of any orders off the order manager, you simply select the order that you want to remove, or if you want to remove all orders, you can actually shelve all orders. So you would select the order, hit the shelve button, or again, if you wanted to eliminate everything off your order manager, you can click that shelve all button. You have to hold it for 3 seconds, and then everything will come off your order manager. Next slide. We also added lots of previous order buttons and multiple different screens, so that if you're repeating an order, again, you don't want to have to enter all that information, each and every time. It will show up on your select product screen. Again, it basically is going to pre-populate all your fields in terms of job number, grower, satellite location, and so forth. And next slide. And it will also show up on your create order. So basically, if you put a bag in there and you're about to choose a product and you knew it was a repeat order, it's going to show up there. Or if you start with just create order, again, you've got that pre-population button where you can just basically hit the repeat order button. Next slide. A lot of times, basically, if machine is powered off and then powered back on, we like to leave the machine on all the time because sometimes we're making changes for the upcoming season. But if the machine is powered off and powered back on, a lot of times we lose information around what was in the buckets in terms of weighing. And so you're going to have to do a reject before you can do any normal dispensing. So we've added this sort of flashing banner that's going to point to the dispense product button where you're going to select that, and it's going to ask you to just do a reject. And most likely there's going to be no product that comes out of the buckets. But again, it's trying to make sure that when you go into a real dispense that you're going to get the correct weights. Next slide. Again, this is basically talking about the Y splitter. I don't think any of our customers are using, but if you ever decided that you wanted to have one tote to fill multiple positions, it would basically, this is how it would look and feel. You have a master and a slave mode, okay? And again, if you're ever interested in obviously reach out to your account managers and we'll get involved in helping you set up with that, but I'm not going to go through that right now. Next slide. And next slide. And then new to this year, we basically have, you'll see that on your machine, we've been installing a modern Zebra printer. Again, there's lots of reasons why we're introducing that. They're easier to read, design in terms of the print, certainly faster printing. There's no ribbon required to do the print anymore. It's thermal printing. And it does have, if you've got the printer basically on a shelf as opposed to in sort of the upright position, you will have an integrated dispenser, which means it's an automatic peeler for faster applications. So again, you can feed it through the peeler option, and then that way you can just grab the ticket and simply place it directly on the bag. And I think that's it.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Sophie Bunting. I work in the hotline. I've probably talked to a couple of you and look forward to talking to you during the season. I'm just going to go over some operational expectations just to get everything running smoothly. First off is retail site expectations. We just expect that you have proper treatment of the machine. I know it gets busy and frustrating when something's not going right during the season or during a dispense, but we just asked that there's no physical abuse. That's not helping anything. Non-PPAC things are not to be stored on top of the frame. We just want the area kept tidy and all FMC grower bags and product and such kept near the machine and tidy for customers to look at. And then, of course, contact the FMC hotline for any technical issues, spills, if you need to order grower bags or printer paper and ink, or if you have any questions at all, you can give us a call. As John said, the number is 1-833 FMC PPAC, and it should be on or near the machine. Next slide, please. So ordering grower bags, we'll be sending out a percentage of forecasted grower bags pretty soon here in the next couple weeks. So just review the latest list of blends available, the new blends that you might want. And then, of course, as the season progresses and as you need, contact our hotline to order more grower bags. Again, the grower bag caps will come separately, 210 per box. So just keep track of your cap inventory and order as needed as well. And then plan for 2 to 3 business days, depending on location. Could be a little bit longer for remote locations. And then if we have a long weekend or holiday, just make sure you're ordering before Wednesday or Wednesday morning, just to make sure you get those bags on time. Inventory management. Again, keep all product and grower bags close to the PPAC machines. It's easy to see. And then you're using the oldest lot number first in, first out. And there's 2 types of lots. So one will be a date lot. Just use the oldest date first. So April before May. And then we have the 5 series number lot number. So you're just going to use the lower number series first. So 10405 before 10431. Next slide. Season startup checklist. So again, like John said, the machines need to be on 24/7 during the season because they do call us for all the dispense data to update. So we need that data to reconcile and make sure everything is running smoothly. And then the scales are only certified above 0 or below 40. This pertains mostly to those that don't have heated chem sheds. So if it's not heated, you're not to dispense below 0 degrees. And then again, with the scales, the machine should never be moved just because the scales will go off kilter. If you want your machine moved for some reason, just give us a call because we will have a tech on site to recertify and recalibrate that scale. And again, just review inventories of product, grower bags, and supplies as needed. For error dispenses and return process, give the FMC hotline a call and we'll give you a form with a return authorization number. We'll send this via email and then just fill out the form accordingly, keep a copy for your own records, and place a copy with the bags to be sent back. Always attach the printed ticket to those error bags. And then the best practice is to write your retail name and town on the box. This just helps our warehouse sort them out quick and get you your credit back quick. Always send your error bags back in the same year. And the best practice is to send them as soon as you have a few errors. So don't wait until you have a bunch and send them all back at the end of the year. And never send error bags back with a RA number, without an RA number. Or on an old form, just because this is how we keep track of them. Next slide. So when do I call the hotline if I get an error bag? If you get one full error bag and you're not sure what happened or it doesn't tell you what happened, just give us a call and we can try to address the issue before or on the next dispense. And if you're getting 2 full error bags in a row or within the last 10 dispenses, regardless of what the issue is, just give us a call. Sometimes we just need to tweak the settings a bit and get you on your way. Or if you have 3 or more partial dispenses for the 3.0 series machines, just give us a call because we want to know what's going on and try to mitigate these errors. So resources, like John said, we do have training videos on the 3.0 machines you can watch right on the screen, but we also have this YouTube channel and they have key training videos with both 1.0 and 3.0 versions available. So you can pop on that and learn how to change product or print a ticket. Many videos on there you can find. Next slide.
Alrighty, I will take it over from here. Today I'll just talk through the 4.1 ordering process. I won't go into detail on the 4.1 machine itself, but what you should know is it's our latest evolution in PrecisionPac technology. And for more details on that, you can reach out to your FMC account manager and they should be able to fill you in with more details on that equipment. But essentially what this machine means to you guys is it's really there to help take some workload off of your plates. We realize that this takes a little bit of extra work. And for some of these locations that are doing high volumes of dispensing, we want to help enable you to do more. And so we're looking to take some of that workload off your plate. The other part to this as well is your machines are only able to handle 6 active ingredients, and so we currently have 7, and we're looking to add more in the future. So we want to enable your locations to access all of the active ingredients without having to pick and choose which 6 you're going to use. So our suggestion to you is choose the 6 that are most important to your business and to your immediate market. And if you have blends that you can't dispense at your location, we can do those for you at the 4.1 machines. Again, just work with your FMC account manager to access that. And then lastly, we've got the new blend peroxysulfone, as Deanna had spoken about earlier here. That one is exclusive to 4.1, so we will not be setting up any of the machines in the field with this active. That particular active is exclusive only through 4.1 dispensing. So how do you go about ordering? Work with your FMC account manager, and it's really important that you work with them to forecast these dispenses. So that's step one. You can then place the order. So either place it internally within your network to your head office, or either with your wholesale partner. Your head office or wholesale partner will then place the PO with FMC. Our FMC 4.1 coordinator will receive the order and then determine, whether it gets sent to the Saskatoon or the Airdrie location, depending on where you're located. Our partner, our operational partner, Future Transfer, will then receive the order. They'll fulfill the order and then release the order to the carrier, and then it will be shipped out to your straight to your location. And you'll receive it and then send it to the grower. Next slide. So what does that mean for timing expectations and timelines? So for pre-season orders, we're defining that as January 1st through March 31st. For in-season, we're looking at April 1st to July 30th. So for in-season timing, orders that are received to FMC prior to 9 a.m., we are aiming to have those dispensed the same day. Orders of less than 120 bags and released to carrier the same day. Now this will depend on a few things. Obviously, if we get a big influx of orders coming at the same time, again, we're going to do our best to get it dispensed and shipped out the same day, but it may end up being released to the carrier the following day. Any orders that are received after 9 a.m., they will be dispensed the same day or the next morning and then released to carrier the next day. We do allow customer pickups, but when you place the order, just make sure you designate that is what you want to do, and then just follow fulfillment guidelines. So again, we don't place the order and then immediately start driving to the warehouse because the order will not be ready for pickup. But just work again, and if you have questions on this, just please work with your FMC account manager, and they should be able to answer any questions you have. Next slide. So steps to process an order. So the purchase requisition or information would be placed by the retailer, by yourselves, to either head office or wholesaler. The purchase order would then be issued by email from the head office or wholesaler to FMC. The data on the order will be verified, making sure that it falls within the correct parameters. So, i.e. making sure that we have the right number, it's adding up to the right number of acres on the PO, and that the appropriate bag sizes are identified on the PO. It'll be then confirmed by email, and then it'll go into production and then shipped to retail. For preseason orders, we'll be shipping through Rosenau, and for in-season, as long as they're below that 120 bag limit, we'll be shipping through Pure later. If it's a larger order, it'll likely go through Rosenau. So just a quick example on the information that we're looking for on the PO. So again, we're looking for the total amount of acres, but the important thing, the really important piece of information that needs to be included here in the notes to vendor are the bags, number of bags, and the bag size. So we cannot process the order without that information. So please make sure that you're including that when you place your order, and please reference the bag size parameters that are outlined in the PrecisionPac materials. That will help us process the orders quicker, rather than having to send it back and say, we can't do that amount of acres in a particular bag. Please resend the appropriate volume. And then when we invoice, it'll look similar to what you see on the right here. So we'll invoice for the total amount of acres. I think that's it for me. Alrighty. I guess we can close the call off. Thank you so much for attending, and good luck to a safe and productive season. Thanks, everyone.